Well, we've got a great program today. It is so good, such a great program that Rick showed back up, and so did the mayor. Hey, Harry. Our program's going to be about the United Way, I'm assuming, because there's all this information put on your table. But I've known our speaker for quite some time. I know members of her family. Our kids kind of grew up together. So without any further ado, you don't want to hear me, except to read to succeed. If you're not doing it, you need to do it because it's fun. It is really fun. My little guy was last week. He hated to leave, and he gave me a big hug and said, I hope to see you soon. So I also set his little digital watch that he got for Christmas that wasn't on the right day or time. So you have all these things that are really fun. So without any further ado, Nancy Jernigan, come on up. Yep.
What? Oh, yeah, there's one in every crowd, right? I was telling Connie a story about, I went to speak at the Cape Senior Center one time, just before lunch, which is like at 11 or something, And I asked Susan if I couldn't come in and just say a couple of words to her group about United Way and hand out some pledge cards, and she said sure. So I did, and so I was only going to talk for like 2-3 minutes, really. Well, you guys are stuck with me for 30, right? So I look up, and as soon as I hadn't even gotten a complete sentence out of my mouth, and Dr. Mark Scully was there in the back of the, You know what's coming next, don't you? So as soon as I started talking, he's back there going, and I was like, oh my goodness, okay, well, I'll make this really brief. So if anybody, feels compelled to do that, Connie said just ignore it. So anyway, I'm so delighted to be here. Whoever was speaking canceled. I got the call. I was so happy to be able to be here today because first and foremost, it gives me an opportunity to say thank you, which I always do because the Rotary clubs do so much, and you all do so much. I know, and you have for years. Aside from eradicating polio, yay. Now you're really digging in your heels and getting super engaged in the community, which is exactly what we need you to do. Who are our Read to Succeed volunteers? Wow, that is so great. And we were having a discussion earlier about men, the importance of men and fathers. You guys just don't know. Women are important too, of course, but but to these kids and to other kids in our public school district that don't have a positive male role model in their life, you make all the difference in the world. The kids are wonderful, they're fabulous, they're great fun at kindergarten, first grade, but I hope to be back later this year to challenge you to get involved with us on a new program we're developing, pairing up men with boys at the high school. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know if you've had Dr. Cowan out, but you should. He will lift your spirits and also give you some real war stories about things that are going on in our high schools. We work very closely with our schools, which is a real blessing to us because they have the kids, right? They know who the kids are that are at risk. And that's what we're focused on, is reaching those kids. The big deal now is this cutting. Kids are cutting themselves. We had a meeting about the things that we were funding and supporting in the schools to find out if we were, still funding the right strategies in their minds, if they were making the difference that they were hoping that they would make, and if there was anything else that we could help with from the community perspective. And Cape Jackson administrators were both there, and they both said the same thing. Mental health. We need help with mental health. Now this is, this has been the discussion for some time, and what happened in Crosstown is just, kind of put the exclamation point on it. There's some serious issues out there, and the system is deficient. And hopefully something will change with that. But so this is one of the roles that United Way is going to be playing, and the unique role that we play in the community is when there's an issue like that. We certainly aren't the mental health experts. We don't have the answers, but we have the capacity and the wherewithal to bring people to the table and start to talk about how can we work with the systems that we are given, the cards we are dealt. Sometimes the systems get in the way of what they're intended to do, you know, all the paperwork, all the bureaucracy. But bottom line, we're a smaller community, and we're a close-knit community and a very caring community. So there's nothing we can't do if we get together and work together to figure it out. That is the united part of United Way. That's what we have always done. We represent the communities of Cape Jackson, Scott City. That's our focus. You know, I always want to remind folks that we are a locally owned and operated organization. There are 1,300 United Ways across the country, but we're all locally owned and operated. So we're working in our communities, for our communities, and that's what has made the United Way and the system itself so successful, is because when we do our fundraising, people know the money stays here, is reinvested here, and we have some real results to show for it. Our mission has never changed. One of the pieces of propaganda, as Harry called it, that I gave you, is what we call United Way on a page, and I may have given you this before. This is our business model. This is the work that we're doing. We have adopted the role of a community impact United Way, and for the past 5 years, we've been understanding what that means and been on this journey that we weren't quite sure where it was going to take us. And I know a lot of people, including Steve, told me just a little while ago that he was a little skeptical when he started hearing the United Way was doing something a little different. But now, thankfully, after 3 or 4 years of implementing strategies that we had a strong feeling would work, we have some real results to share. And that's why I brought you this. This was in the newspaper back in the fall. You may remember seeing it. You maybe didn't get it. This is all about the results that we're achieving. And with this work in collective impact, having a focus on critical community issues, we now continue to have our 32 partners, 50+ programs that we fund, but now we're all focused on really impacting the needs in the community. Because money's not the only answer, and the Read to Succeed program has proven that. The Read to Succeed program makes a horrible case for fundraising because it doesn't cost hardly anything. That's the beauty of it, though. But without 150 volunteers, it wouldn't happen. We were able to get a grant, which is another wonderful thing about us having this all spelled out and having some direction and some focus, is now we have a much better chance at accessing grants, which brings money into the community on top of the money that we raise in the campaign. So we get $110,000 every year from the federal government through the AmeriCorps program, which is the American Peace Corps. It's a fabulous program for young people and old alike. We have all ages. We have 23 AmeriCorps members under the grant that are working alongside of you all in your volunteer roles at the schools. And they're also learning a lot about service and getting a lot of additional training outside of just the reading program. So it's fabulous. So this is our agenda for change. Our mission, as I said, has never changed. We're still connecting people in need with resources in the community. And what I have found after all these years, and knew after several years, is that we have plenty of resources in this community. What we're finding is that people that need them the most are not accessing them for a million different reasons. They either don't have the knowledge, they don't know they're out there, they're too proud. We're seeing a lot of that right now. One of our board members, Jay Wolves, went to a mobile food bank where the SEMO Food Bank brought, it was at Red Star Baptist Church, and brought food to their activity center on a Saturday, publicized it in the neighborhood. And Jay said he couldn't believe the families he saw. He was really surprised. They were people like you and me. coming for food, and we're hearing that more and more all the time from our food. Our food banks are barren. As soon as they get food, they run out. And if you think about your budget and that's the last thing, the thing you can go without. Except our kids can't go without food. Our Grace's Women's Group funded the first backpack program in our area, and now every school is engaged with Backpacks for Fridays, where low-income kids take backpacks full of food home every Friday and bring it back empty every Monday, and then that happens every week, week after week. We have hundreds of kids in our Cape and Jackson public school districts that are accessing that program. So, and you may be surprised to find out, I hate to be Debbie Downer, but we see part of our role in the community as we understand the state of the community. We feel compelled to share that information with the rest of you, and particularly service clubs like Rotary. There was an article in the newspaper last year, and you may have missed it, that reported demographics for our county. And what it reported was that the number of families who earn $25,000 or less annually increased by 10%. It went from 20-something% to 30-something%. Now, if you think about that, $25,000, I don't know when the last time somebody tried to live on that with a family. That doesn't work. What we know is that to live in Cape County, if you have children, we know what rent costs, we know what utilities cost, we know what child care costs, that you need to make at least $30,000 to $35,000 a year to be totally self-sufficient. And more than 30% of our families are making $25,000 or less. So this is why we know, we really understand, because we're looking at that data, why our agencies are coming to us and saying, there's more need, there's more need, there's more need. There are some shifts happening in our demographics that aren't evident when you kind of walk the streets or drive around Cape and Jackson. And I think it's our duty to make sure that people understand our demographics are changing. They've changed in the schools. I think that's one of our challenges with our Cape Public Schools, is that they have 3 schools now out of 5 elementary schools whose free and reduced lunch numbers are 80% or above. And free and reduced lunch numbers, to qualify for that, that's pretty low income. It's not, 200% of poverty. It's really low income. Jackson schools are not seeing the same numbers, but they are seeing significant increases, 25% increase over the past 5 years. So this is happening, and we need to be aware of it, because we don't want our community to decline. And we do have a lot of resources here. So our job at United Way is to bring these resources to the table. And as I said earlier, it's not always money. What we're finding more and more is it's people that really make the difference. So kudos to you guys for taking on the Read to Succeed program. Big Brothers Big Sisters is another one that we're pushing out everywhere we can, because mentoring is a powerful tool in the lives of these kids. And of course, the earlier you can get to them, the better. But we have a lot of kids in the system that are already in trouble, and we can't let go of them. So our mission is to connect people with resources. We're focused on strengthening families, whether it's a family of 1 or a dozen. We have 3 focus areas of education, income, and health. We have spent the last 3 or 4 years really diving deep into the area of education. It's taken us a while to really understand all the challenges and issues and barriers of our school system. We focused really on Cape Public School System because of the graduation rate there, and we've had great success. They've had great success. We don't take full credit. I mean, I have such an appreciation for teachers and administrators, and if you know one, as soon as you leave here, text them, call them, email them, and tell them thank you for what they do, because being a teacher these days is really hard, and it's getting harder. And because of technology, they're having to relearn, themselves. So education, we know the steps that it takes, the indicators we call them, for kids to be successful, and early start is a quality early.
Line 1.
Wow. That was cool. Quality early care is the most important thing, and we have some great success there to share with you about our community. We have right now only about 15% of our kids that are going into kindergarten are not prepared. They haven't had the foundation, they haven't been read to, they don't know their colors, they don't know numbers, they don't, they just haven't been taught anything yet. Only 15%, which is a manageable number. We keep digging to try to find out who these kids are, where they live, how we can get to these families to make sure that they know about all the great resources. Because we have a lot of we have three programs that will visit in the home with the child and the parent one-on-one. And especially for low income, we know that's the best. So, and what we also know from hearing from the schools what their percentage of kids with individual education plans, IEPs, is about 14–15%. So we think we're doing really well. And I've got to give the schools credit in Jackson too. They have created their own preschools within the schools. I think the state government is starting to realize that that's a very sound investment. Even in these times when there's no extra money, but the schools have found a way to provide them anyway. Cape has about 80 kids in theirs. Jackson has a few less, but that's the best start. I mean, even if your wife gets to stay at home, we find, and teachers tell us this that thought they'd never say this, that it's still good to put them in a preschool when they're 4. So they learn how to stand in line. So they learn how to, be in a group. And, So we're very proud of our early childhood providers in this community because they're doing a great job. 3rd grade reading level. You all know how important that is. It's a real indicator of future success or failure in school. And then we have a high school graduation rate. That's just a number. What we're trying to be sure is that kids are having the tools that they need when they graduate to go to the next step. And we have to, again, give great credit to our schools. We went in the past year, now our graduation rate has been all over the place because they have changed the way they're tracking it and redone the formula and this and that. But basically in the last year, the Cape Public Schools went from 67% to 81% in 1 year. That's a huge leap. And I know it's because the schools are working hard at it, and we're working with them to find the kids that are most at risk. We had an article in the paper earlier this week that talked about the data points we're tracking to make sure that we're not just creating this plan and sticking it on a shelf and then checking back in 10 years. We set a bold goal of helping the schools with out-of-school time program, with mentoring, with tutoring, parent engagement, with the strategies that the United Way is investing in. We set a bold goal of helping them increase the graduation rate to 90% by 2018-19. And we keep talking about that because we intend to make that happen. And we're very excited to see this giant leap in 1 year because we think it's going to continue to track that way. Jackson Scott City, kudos to them. They have been able to maintain 90+% graduation rates for years and years. What we learned from that and how that can be when the communities are so close is that the populations are much different. Our Cape Public Schools, although our community demographics are about, I think, Harry, you may know this better than I do, 15% African American. The public schools demographics are about 35% African American. We have great, our families have choices. We have Saxony, we have Notre Dame. So as Dr. Cowan says, we have the best of the best and the worst of the worst. But they all deserve a right to a successful education. And what we're finding is no big surprise. It's not anything that the school's done to let them down. It's our families, our parents, the challenges they're having, which are many, trying to provide for their family, more and more single-parent families. I can't imagine trying to do that alone. And that's what United Way is there for, is to support those people that don't have their own support system. I feel the community is that support system, and those are the people that are most at risk, and those are the kids that are most at risk. They're in families with no real support system. So we're finding them and trying to bring together as many of the existing resources as we can around them to support them. We have a meeting next week of all of our education partners. We're going to have a little webinar on collaboration, and then we're going to talk about how can we bring the programs we have, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, 4-H, Boys and Girls Club, how can we bring these resources we have to bear on more children's lives at risk? That's our challenge. We don't need more programs. We need the ones we have to have greater capacity to serve more people. Right, Ted?
That's correct.
Because they are making a difference. What our outcomes show us is that 85% of kids that are in some sort of out-of-school time program are on track to graduate. That's how big of a difference it makes. We know that kids, if you take a year's time, they spend only 25% of their waking hours in school. So that means 75% of their time is spent out of school. That's how important that time is. It's a big chunk of their lives, and we need to be able to provide programming for them, because everybody works, right? To be able to round out their development. It's not just the academics, it's all the other things, the life skills, the good decision making that all of our out of school time programs are working on. So we know that's successful. So we're going to try to get down, I can't wait for the meeting when we are actually talking about individual students, instead of just these general populations. Here's a list of 30 kids at the junior high, and we know these kids are making bad grades, the attendance is bad behavior, and we know they're not connected to any program in our community, any youth development program. So we're going to work hard on getting those 30 kids into a scout troop or into a Boys and Girls Club or with a mentor or something. And if we can drill down that deep, then we'll get her done. It'll work. Income, we're just starting our deep dive in income. Our goal there is to determine what strategies we can invest in to help people be self-sufficient. We give a lot of money to the Salvation Army every year. They do a fabulous job in this community of meeting the basic needs of people. As I said earlier, they are seeing more and more people come to them for help for the first time. But we've got to help them not just band-aid a problem, but really figure out what is the root cause of them needing food or not being able to pay their utility bill. And when I think of it in terms of this community and the many resources we have for training and education, it's the job, right? The bottom line is they have to have a job. And as John Maynard has taught me, all jobs are valuable. Working at McDonald's is a great job, but it's not a great job if that's their only goal. If their goal is to get that job at McDonald's and then that's the only accomplishment that they expect to make in their life, then we have a problem, because that cannot sustain them. So our role, I think, will be to get folks engaged with some help, because I have a senior in high school, my Jenna May, and her grades are not great, so we're looking at CTC. We've spent hours over there visiting with people, looking online, because they have so much to offer, so many programs, and they have all these collaborations with Mineral Area and Three Rivers and SEMO, and there's, it's a lot of information. And some people don't have the capacity to gather all that information, to make the decisions, to fill out the forms, they hate the forms. Again, we just need people to walk alongside of them, just to help them, to motivate them, to encourage them. We've had several meetings already with people in the community that are working on job readiness and training, and what we hear is, for example, from the adult basic education folks that provide the GED testing, that these kids know, a lot of young kids, fortunately, maturity's a good thing, right? They finally figure out, oh yeah, I need that. So they go, they know, they're motivated to go and get their GED, but then they don't have a clue what to do next. And no one to tell them, no one to help them. no one to ask those stupid questions that they hate to ask. I mean, I have a 22-year-old that is just now figuring out, you know, what to major in. And we've spent hours with him trying to help him figure that out. And a lot of kids don't have that at all. And they don't have the self-confidence, but they're motivated. See that, and that is the piece that we can't do anything about. If they're not motivated, they have to be motivated. And that might be a misconception of a lot of folks, is that all of the agencies that we fund and other programs in the community that we fund, no one is a proponent of just handing folks money or just giving them what they need without some sort of strings attached. And we have a great network of a lot of networking is going on amongst our agencies, so that if someone pops into town that thinks they're going to run a quick scam, you know, among all the serving organizations, they get shut down pretty quickly, because people start to call one another and said, here's a, you know, looks like this, telling this story, not so true, you know. That we can have resources for those that really need it. You're laughing. What are you laughing at?
No.
You just constantly have a smile on your face?
I'm happy.
I thought maybe you knew something I didn't know.
We were talking about our rate succeeds, it says there.
Oh, what? Share.
We were thinking would we be able to pass the GED right now?
I know. Yes, I know. I worry about that too.
Scott was more concerned than I was.
Yeah.
I think the math and reading we could do, but
I know.
the science and
Well, I wonder about that citizenship test too, don't you, when you read about those? And I wonder about that. Yes, sir.
Nancy, this is more of saying thank you than a question, but as you know, I'm involved with the Boys and Girls Club, and through the United Way, and there are other agencies that help us, but we can always use more help. But you actually require us, I mean, we don't go play basketball all afternoon. A lot of people think that. That's what the Boys and Girls Club do. In fact, we don't hardly do that at all.
Yep.
And we're not a babysitter or
Right.
after school thing.
Right.
We actually have programs which
Right.
you require us to have
Right.
that help with education,
Right.
how diet, how they eat,
Right.
and all these various things that I just
Yep.
want to thank United Way for, because we service 90 to 100 kids during the school year and about 150 to 200
In the summer.
that in the summertime
Yeah.
are just going to be let loose if
Right.
we weren't there. So
Yeah, we
thank
definitely
you for
need
that.
to build the capacity of the Boys and Girls Club. We definitely need to do that because they have a great program. They do homework first. You know, that's the big challenge. You ask a teacher, what's the big challenge? Kids aren't doing their homework. How they figured out they could get away with that, I'll never know. But they had. They stopped doing their homework. So they've, basically stopped giving it. That's, a very important, you have to learn how to learn. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, this is really terrific. Just more of a comment. Catholic Charities of Southern Missouri is fairly new in this region.
Yes.
Catholic Charities USA is not new, but
Right.
And they've been sort of pegged as a disaster relief because
Yes.
of job.
Yes.
Family strengthening is a huge part of their mission. They're
Yes.
trying to grow.
Yes.
So it's good to know that. I mean, I don't think they're a recipient today, but who knows in the future.
Yeah, they've never come to us for
Yeah.
funding. I know Kyle very well. We worked together with the disaster programs before, and I know they do great case management, have a great food pantry. He should call us. We should have a
Yeah, it's just
conversation.
interesting because they're trying to because that's part of their mission. I mean,
Right.
it's definitely part of Catholic Charities USA
Right.
mission.
Right.
is this,
Right.
so.
Well, and, we will probably never have an open application process again because we, with our agenda, really know what we're trying to accomplish, and we have a pretty good understanding of who's doing it. So if we see a new organization or an expanded organization pop up that we feel is going to help us accomplish this work, then we will go to them and say, please, we would like you to be a part of this work. So, and the last thing I'll say is for health, our focus right now is on our senior citizens, helping them stay in their home, live in their home as long as possible, being independent. A meal served by one of our senior centers may cost $10 a day where that meal may be the only thing keeping them in their home and not in a nursing home. So you can realize the savings real quickly there. And also the abused and neglected. That's where we fund the CASA program and Safe House for Women because those folks are truly victims and deserve all the help community can give them. So I think we're working smarter, which will result in greater impact in the community, which is our goal always. But it's a team effort. We appreciate all of you. I know many of you are donors. Thank you very much for supporting our work. Thank you very, very much for supporting Read to Succeed. And just keep up the good work. Any questions?